So good day everyone, this is Sir Joe Radam, your teacher in Practical Research 1. So this video is only intended for educational purposes and cases to tamper this purpose is strictly prohibited. So this video will be listing all the lessons printed on your self-modules, and of course intellectual property of the author is utilized and used as clearly stated on sa references. So as you watch this video, don't forget to write down on the comment section your name and your section. And you may also include your concerns and your questions about or regarding this video so that by the time that I read questions, I can make another video answering your questions, okay, for our interaction. So obviously, our subject is Research 1, no? Actually, itong Research 1, diba usually the students get afraid of research because no gagawa ng research, gagawa ng ganito. Pero actually this is just Research 1. Ang Research 1 will only be talking about theories, concepts, frameworks that might be applicable on the making of the research itself, no? Hindi pa talaga sa literal na gagawa tayo ng research. So ngayon it's just a sort of preparation para pagka grade 12 in Practical Research 2, you will be ready and you will be guided on how to do it. Okay? So ngayon, ang lesson 1 for Practical Research is inquiry-based learning and some philosophical principles in learning. So we're going to discuss ano ang research, ano ang approach na gagamitin kay research, how to make research easy to do, no? By applying these philosophical principles in learning. So ngayon, the question is, why are we studying research, no? Bakit ba tayo nag-aaral ng research? So why do we have to study and do research, no? That's the biggest question. Bakit ba kailangan nating pag-aralan at gawin ang research? So honestly, research is very important. Why research is important? Because actually, everything that we have now today, no, from the cell phone that you use, from the load that you utilize to access the internet, from the food you eat, no, from the clothes you wear, from every pen that you write, or every materials in your home, all the accessories that you have. So everything that you have right now are all products of research. That's why research is very important, because without research, probably there will be no invention, no improvement of our daily lives. There will be no way of living life easily. No, that's what research do. That's why research is very important. Ngayon, let's talk about first inquiry-based. No, ano ba ang inquiry-based? Kasi itong si inquiry-based is the primordial method that we use in research. When we say primordial, this is the very first thing that we use in research, no? Inquiry-based. So, kapag inquiry-based, from the word itself, inquiry means to inquire, no? From the root word inquire, which means to ask or to seek questions or to seek answers, no? Ngayon, ano bang differences ng inquiry-based sa traditional approach? When we say traditional approach, ito yung nakasanayan nating approach in the way of learning. Diba? Usually, noon when we were in elementary years, kapag traditional yung classroom, si teacher lang lahat, no? When the teacher enters the class, the teacher do the discussion and everything. And then the students will just listen to the activity and end. So, yun yung traditional. Pero ang inquiry-based, this is another part of philosophical discovery in learning, wherein the students are the main concern, not the teachers anymore. So in general, the traditional approach to learning is focused on the mastery of the content. Diba totoo? Noong traditional, way back before in our former education and for our primary education, we go to school to master the content, to memorize everything. Pero that's a lame way of learning. Kasi when you try to memorize, there will always, time will come na you will forget them. You will forget everything that you have memorized. That's why, nandito yung inquiry based, no? So, with less emphasis on the development and skills of the nurturing of inquiring attitudes, the current system of education is teacher-centered. Diba? Teacher-centered siya. Way back in traditional. With the teacher focused on giving out information about what is known. Si teacher lang talaga nagdi-discuss kung ano ang dapat malaman ng estudyante, which is mali. Okay? So, students are the receivers of information and the teacher is a dispenser. Much of the assessment of the learner is focused on the importance on the right answer. Diba totoo? In the traditional, it's about finding the right answer, memorizing everything to get the right answer. That's traditional. Where in fact, dapat, itong inquiry approach na ito, parang ni-revolutionize niya yung way of learning wherein students lang ang mag-a-act doon sa classroom as the teacher is just a guide. No? Kasi when the students do the task, there's a concrete learning. Diba? Kapag ang bata, example yung bata, how would a child learn if the parent is guiding the child all by his or her life? Diba? How would a child learn to drink if the parents would not tell the child to use a glass to drink? So kapag ang parent, ginabayan niya lang palagi yung bata, the child will not have that learning. Pero kapag pinabayaan niya lang gawin ang mga bagay, so that particular child would learn so much. Diba? So, excuse me. So this is the common definitions of inquiry based doon sa given scenarios in the classroom from the student. So usually meron tayong kapag inquiry based, sinasabi ng students na when you do stuff that is real. 'Di ba kapag when you do stuff that are real, probably the learning is concrete, no? Nandoon yung learning. 'Di ba when you act, you learn a lot. Iba yung naririnig mo lang, iba yung nakikita mo lang, at iba naman yung nagagawa mo talaga. Diba? And also, it is like projects and things that take a long time. So when kids work in groups or with partners and make big things, diba? When kids work in group, kayo nga sa classroom, when you are tasked to do outside activities, it's fun. When it's fun, it's concrete. When it's concrete, there's great learning. No? So there are actually 4 characteristics of inquiry-based learning. So ano ba itong mga characteristics na ito? So number 1 is when you ask questions that motivate. No? When you ask questions that motivate? So actually, ang inquiry-based learning involves questions that are interesting and motivating to students. So this is the primary concern of research, no? Ang research, parang hindi talaga siya mangyayari if you limit yourselves from asking questions. Kasi yan yung research. Research is making your own questions and then answering your own questions by doing. Gumagawa ka ng sarili mong tanong, hinahanap mo yung answer from that question so that ma-fulfill mo yung research mo, no? That's it. So number 2 is when you utilize wide variety of resources. Of course, when you ask, you look for something. And then what now when you look for something? In order to answer those questions that you have asked, of course, you have to utilize the variety of resources. Saan ko ba siya makikita? No? Where can I find this information? Saan ko ba makikita ang mga sagot sa questions ko? So, how are you going to seek for that? So, itong inquiry-based learning, it utilizes a wide variety of resources so students can gather information and form opinions. So, sa research, one good researcher is a researcher who knows where to find answers from the different resources. So, yun yung magandang research, no? Yun yung magandang research characteristic. A good researcher is a person or a researcher who knows where to find research answers in different resources. That's why yung research kapag, di ba, usually when you find a book, no? Actually, kapag sa book, kung makikita nyo sa likod ng book, meron tayong references. Di ba? There are listed references. So, references refers to the sources, kung saan mo kinuha yung mga study, kaninong study ang ginamit mo. So, the more the resources, the better the outcome of a specific study. Di ba? Example, when you find, for example, sa COVID-19, no, when you find for a solution to stop COVID-19, you have to make for a vaccine. Ngayon, when you make to find a vaccine, of course, you have to seek different resources. No? Hanap ka ng, kasi you cannot just make a vaccine immediately. So, kailangan mo pa mag-study and seek for resources that will suit doon sa specific virus. So, a good researcher, again, is a good seeker of resources. Hindi lang siya marunong humanap ng answers, but also good rin siyang humanap ng different resources from that answers. Okay? So, number 3 is, in inquiry-based, teacher is only a facilitator. Kasi noon sa traditional, si teacher lahat ng dispenser ng knowledge. Yung si dispenser, si teacher lahat ang nagbibigay, no? Dinidispense niya yung knowledge niya. From that term that we call spoon feeding. Di ba noon, spoon feeding lang. Students will ask, the teacher will answer. Everything that comes around inside the classroom all comes from a teacher. Pero ang inquiry-based, si teacher is isang facilitator na lang siya, no? Nagiging facilitator na lang si teacher because ang students na ang gumagawa ng mga tasks. So, teachers play a new role as a guide for facilitator. So, ito, guide na lang si teacher. Okay? So, ano ba itong teacher as a guide? When the teacher is a guide, what does facilitating a class really mean? No, kapag si teacher guide lang siya, ano ba dapat ang gina-guide ni teacher? So, dapat si teacher kapag guide lang siya sa classroom, magaling siyang gumawa ng mga activities or mga concrete experiences that will let the students learn so much. Okay? Kailangan maganda siya, marunong siyang mag-formulate ng activities na that will involve students to have concrete learning. So, rather than teaching content, you will manage team members' interaction so teams stay focused and make progress with your careful encouragement. So, with the careful encouragement of the teacher, each team problem, plan, or action and outcome will emerge on its own. So, si students lang ang gagawa all by themselves so that there will be concrete understanding and learning. So, number 4 is the characteristic. One of the characteristic of inquiry-based is meaningful products come out from inquiry-based learning. Totoo, no? Meaningful product comes out from a person who asks a lot. Diba? Sabi nga ni Albert Einstein, in order to learn things from the world, don't stop asking. Diba? Sabi ni Albert Einstein yan. Don't stop asking. So, that's why mga matatalino ang mga scientists na to because they make their own problems. They do a lot of questions and then they find answers to their questions. So, meaningful product ito, no? Just like this one, the picture of a girl doing a violin and children playing, doing tasks. So, kapag ginagawa nila ang task, there is a great learning, no? That's why in former years, doon sa kindergarten natin, especially in elementary years, no, kailangan talaga ang students ma-engage sa mga trabaho na dapat sila ang gagawa. Diba? Kasi mas maganda ang learning doon compare sa si teacher lang talaga ang nagsasalita. Okay? So, learning in the classroom. So, these are the learning that happens inside the classroom, no, kapag inquiry-based yung approach na gagamitin natin. In learning in the classroom, so in inquiry-based, so meron tayong 5. Itong 5 na ito are, of course, a very evident reasons, no, that there is an inquiry type of learning. So, kapag mayroong cooperative learning, mayroong teamwork, mayroong tayong excitement na na-establish, and when we try to present, like we do reporting and a lot of dramatizations, mga role-playing, at saka meron tayong movement na nagaganap inside the classroom. So that is a concrete example that inquiry-based is applied. So ngayon, let's talk about the philosophical claims of the different persons in studying researches and the development of learning of a specific learner. So first, let's start with John Dewey. Now, ito si John Dewey. John Dewey is a philosopher and also a psychologist, no? John Dewey is actually the father of modern psychology, no? Si John Dewey. So let's meet John Dewey. John Dewey is born on 1859, graduated at the University of Beatty, and became a high school teacher for 3 years. So John Dewey received his doctorate. It's John of ganon. And yan ang mga recording achievement of John Dewey. Let's proceed. So, ang theory ni John Dewey, knowledge which is mainly a second hand. No? Sabi ni John Dewey, ang knowledge daw is mainly second hand. Bakit kaya second hand? So, later we will know. Because it tends to become merely verbal. It is no objection to information that is clothed within words. Communication necessarily takes place through words. But in degree in what is communicated cannot be organized into existing experience of the learner. It becomes mere words that is lacking in meaning, then it operates to call out mechanical reaction. So sabi nga kanina, no, doon sa traditional way of learning, kapag ang bata nakikinig lang siya, kapag sinabi mong knowledge is purely verbal, that is not correct. No? Knowledge is not purely verbal. Kasi kapag naging verbal lang ang knowledge, when the teacher talks and then the students listens, not all the attention of the student is nandoon kay teacher. No? Meron tayong specific factors. What if ang student is nagsastruggle sa bahay nila, merong problemang iniisip? So of course, the student cannot listen carefully. So there are distractors. So ngayon, sabi ni John Dewey, knowledge is mainly second hand. So we learn everything based from our experiences and from the adults that we encountered and from the different persons that we encountered, the experiences that we encountered, and then it becomes our own knowledge. No? So ang theory, itong text to text, knowledge, from the knowledge, so sabi ni John Dewey that facts requires comprehensions or apprehensions, whereas an understanding requires comprehension. So a fact is just a merely fact, and it requires apprehension. So kapag when you know a fact, you have to apprehend it, no? You have to apprehend it to apply it because it's already a fact. Where in fact, kapag it's just an understanding, kailangan niya pa ng comprehension before you can fully apply that understanding to real life. That's knowledge, no? Ang knowledge, kapag factual siya, you know something, you apply that knowledge, then learning is concrete. Okay? Example, nakabasa kag libro about religion, no? Example, you read a book about religion, and then it changes your perspectives about God. So then it affects your life, it affects your spirit, it affects your faith, and then unti-unti nababago yung behavior mo according to your faith. So that's knowledge from text to text, and then it becomes into application. And into experience, kapag we require experience naman, learning from the experience, of course there is continuity interaction. So we only think that when we are confronted with a problem. So sabi ni John Dewey, we only think we are confronted with problems when there is experience. So when there is experience, di ba learning is it's a process. When you learn something, it does not stop there, no? It does not stop from a specific learning and then it ends all. So learning is continuous. You don't stop from learning. Even adults don't stop in learning, no? Kahit yung uh, mga learned professors that we know, from the different persons that are highly intellectual that we know, they still continue from learning. Kasi from time to time, they experience a lot of things. So in understanding, so we go beyond information given to make inferences, connections, and associations. So in understanding is different from knowledge, okay? Kasi ang knowledge is just purely the sense of acquiring things kahit hindi mo pa siya na-understand. Example, when somebody say na napatay si Duterte kaya naa sa Facebook you post. So that's a knowledge na napatay si Duterte because you know the information, you read the information. But without understanding the information, is the information factual or not? So, naniwala ka kaagad. So, if you do not go beyond that information, so you don't infer, you don't connect, and you don't associate those information to become an understanding. So, purely, wala rin siyang sense. And then, sabi din ni John Dewey, education is about more than test scores. So, totoo, no? Education is more about test scores. So, education, learning. When there is learning, there is education. So, do not be afraid that you commit mistakes in your exams, in your assignments, in your quiz, because it will not measure doon sa learning mo. So, the most important thing in learning is that you commit mistakes and you learn from those mistakes. So, don't bother with your test scores. Test scores, if mababa siya, no? The most important thing is you learn, and then after you learn, you don't commit same mistakes. So sabi ni John Dewey. So sabi din ni John Dewey, children are not citizens in training. So of course, children are not really citizens in training. So they develop. They don't stay the same. We don't feel stagnant when we learn. Okay? And sabi din niya, behavior in schools reflects community behavior. So of course, school is the place where we learn, and of course, in our learning, it's our application in the bigger community, because a school is just a small community. So everything that we learn inside the small community in the school, that will reflect in our behavior in our larger community outside. Okay, and then also democratic community must be the context of education. Of course, democratic community, di ba democracy talks about the freedom. So it must be the context inside the education. So education must be democratic. When you say democratic, there is freedom of doing tasks, learning different things, because it's democratic. That must be the essence of education. Schools are arenas for changes. Of course, it's very self-explanatory that in school you learn, and in that particular learning, that's your way to change. Okay? So itong cognitive development naman, the construction of thought processes by making meaning. So behavior is stimulus response. Ano ba itong stimulus response? Stimulus response is so kapag sinabing stimulus response, no, example, ang stimulus is the question, no? When there is a question, there must be a response. So sabi nga sa science also, example daw, sabi ni Sir John, example, no, kapag nainitan ka, of course, your stimulus responds to a specific environment that it's so hot. So of course, ang gagawin mo, punta ka dun sa colder place para hindi ka mainitan. Okay? That's the behaviorism. Ang social constructionism naman is an interaction with other in a world, no? Of course, social constructionism, from the word social, constructionism. So you interact with the world, and then you learn from the world, or you learn from your peers. And also, reader response theory. Ano ba ang reader response theory? So it's an interaction inside a text. So reader response. So when you read, of course, you put applications based doon sa mga nabasa mo, and then you apply it, no? Ang constructivism naman, constructivism, it assimilates and it accommodates. So from the word itself, constructivism, it constructs a specific learning into assimilation that will put learning into concrete experiences. So sabi ni John Dewey, we acquire knowledge, we learn by processing experiences. So that's very true. So now we proceed to another learning principle of Lev Vygotsky. No, so itong si Lev Vygotsky, he is the proponent of the zone of proximal development, or we also know this as ZPD. So si Lev Vygotsky is also a psychologist, no? So sa study ni Lev Vygotsky, he talks about learning of a specific child acquired from adult or learned individual. So yung ZPD or zone of proximal development, Lev Vygotsky believed that students or children learn from adults or learned individual. No, example, ang mga bata when they are in primary ages, kailangan they have to go to school and be taught by the teachers so that they can learn. So there are 3 stages, no, itong comfort zone and the zone of proximal development, itong panic zone. So itong comfort zone, according to Lev Vygotsky, kapag ang bata is nasa comfort zone niya lang, the children will not learn. Example, ang bata, kapag kinder siya, the child already know how to write the alphabet, no? The child already know how to write the alphabet. And then the activities are only focusing doon sa alphabet. So, parang hindi na challenge yung bata. Kapag hindi na challenge yung bata, walang magagawang learning. So parang mag-stagnant lang siya doon sa specific learning niya, doon sa alphabet. So as a teacher, you have to find ways in order to improve that specific activity that will let the student be challenged and to work hard. So kapag comfort zone lang, there is no learning, no? Walang magaganap na learning. So sometimes the work is just right. So kapag right lang yung work, sometimes rin yung students nabobore. Correct? Nabobore siya at saka hindi siya nakaka-feel ng frustration. So when the students get bored, there's no learning. When the student is frustrated, walang learning. So kailangan there is appropriate challenge sa bata. So sometimes naman, if the work is too hard, masyadong mahirap lang yung work, nagpapanik yung bata, no? Nagpapanik ang isang student. Diba kayo, when you feel that the work is very difficult, so parang nawawalan ka ng gana to make the task. Nawawalan ka ng gana to finish a task. So you now become so frustrated to do the task. So therefore, in ZPD, there is a balance in learning. So depende siya sa pag-response or sa pag-motivate ng isang tao para magkaroon ng specific learning. So zone of proximal development, the difference between what a child can do independently and what a child needs to help from more knowledgeable person. So the difference now between what a child can do. So if a child can already perform the basic alphabet, so you go now to a specific activity na matcha-challenge yung bata. Hindi ka lang you don't stick to the alphabet itself, but you go to deeper activities. So the more knowledgeable other, so ito MKO, more knowledgeable other. So ito yung learned individual or learned adult. So these are the persons that we encounter that has specific learning already, no? This person can maybe anyone, a coach, a teacher, another student, any of age, or even a computer or a device. So an MKO could be a sort of person or a thing, no? That's why, so the distance between actual and potential knowledge. So itong illustration na ito, this illustration, the one that I'm drawing is Diba, there is a potential knowledge and there is an actual knowledge, and in between there is a ZPD. So itong ZPD na ito, this is the person or a thing that will help you to achieve the potential knowledge. So ikaw, ito si actual knowledge. When you have the actual knowledge, kailangan you have to consult to someone or to use something to gain that potential knowledge. Okay? So two children at the same time, actual knowledge, travel different distances to their potential knowledge. So therefore, there is a different ZPD. So ibang ZPD ang nangyayari. So this is an example of how ZPD work in the life of a child. So in this illustration, there is a game. So itong game na to, the name of the game is Yu-Gi-Oh! So si James has never learned to play Yu-Gi-Oh! So James knows that his brother know how to play that Yu-Gi-Oh! So ngayon si James, hindi niya alam kung paano siya laruin at doesn't know how to start it. So ang ginawa ni James, James finally asked his brother, Ali is the brother, for a help. So itong si Ali already know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Ali agrees and begins working with James in learning the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So James is learning in a region of Vygotsky would call ZPD. So ang ZPD tool natin dito is si Ali. At si Ali yung may actual knowledge. I know si James yung may actual knowledge at saka si Ali yung may purpose knowledge in the way of ZPD. So ngayon, in ZPD, James is doing something requiring the help of someone more capable. Without Ali's help, James would be unable to play the game. So eventually, James will learn the game enough to play by himself. So ngayon, without the help of Ali anymore, since James already knew how to play the game, so even without the help of his brother, so alam niya na kung paano gawin yung laro. So once James learned to play Yu-Gi-Oh, the skill moves out of the ZPD region and is added to another game James is about to play. So ngayon, ang nangyayari, since James already know how to play the game, si James na naman yung nagiging tool or nagiging ZPD. So si James, maaari na naman siyang magturo to other person. So ganun, no? There is a path of knowledge in the process of ZPD. So in time, James becomes the more capable player and begins to teach his sister. So James naman ang nagtuturo sa kanyang sister. Hindi na si Alice, since alam na naman ni James. So in the cognitive development naman, let's go to the third philosophical learning of Bruner. No, si Jerome Bruner is another psychologist, a follower of John Piaget. 'Di ba kanina sinabi ko who is John Piaget? So in Jerome Bruner's cognitive development stages, ito yung tatlong stages, no, from the stage 1 inactive, the second one is iconic, and the third one is symbolic. So ang inactive, this happens from birth to age 3, and then iconic happens from age 3 to 8, and symbolic stage comes from age 8 and above. So each mode is dominant at different and passes in different phases of development but are all presented in accessible ways. So let's discuss these three processes. So kapag nasa inactive process pa yung bata, aging 0 to 3, so 'di ba when a child ages 0 to 3, kailangan niya pa na mag-assist sa kanya to do certain things. Like example, when a child wants to poo, so you have to direct the child to go to the CRs para next time kapag naka-feel na po siya na he wants to poo, so immediately pupunta yung bata doon sa place na tinuro mo kung saan niya gagawin yung isang activity. So the first stage is termed inactive. So inactive, hindi pa active. When a person learns about the world through actions on physical objects and the outcomes of these actions. So dito, the child learns the physical actions from the world to become a behavior or an outcome of an action, no? Dito. So sa iconic, Ang iconic naman, the second stage was called iconic, where learning can be obtained through using models and pictures. So dito, the child can already comprehend um, icons or symbols that will serve as a learning tool, no? Kabalo na dili ang bata mo identify ng icons and symbols for a learning, no? And then kapag ang bata marunong nang mag-analyze ng mga symbols at ang mga icons and symbols, so ang the last stage is the symbolic. Kapag naging symbolic na yung bata, the children will learn to think abstract things. For example, when you teach the child star and you say the star is up above, blinking, so mga stars sila. And then kapag symbolic na yung bata, alam niya yung star. Kapag naging symbolic na siya, the child might ask na, Ma, where are the stars coming from? So parang nagagano, no? Parang nagiging abstract na yung mga the questions are a bit abstract and a bit difficult compared doon sa iconic stage pa lang niya. So the children or a child learns to ask questions abstractly from this stage. So based on these three stages, Brunner recommended using a combination of concrete, pictorial, then symbolic activities will lead to a more effective learning. So kapag ginamitan natin ng pictorial and symbolic activities, so there is an effective learning. Okay? So to sum up all, doon sa theory ni Jerome Brunner, so ito yung mga applications na maaring gawin or how a child acquire learning. So examples of all three to help children learn about, example, dinosaurs. So you have to first in active, kapag inactive pa yung bata, so 'di ba maka-recognize naman siya ng mga drawing, 'di ba? So pwede kang mag-draw ng dinosaurs and then point out, this is a dinosaur, a two-legged animal with long neck and then with two eyes and a mouth. So ganyan, that's a dinosaur. So kapag iconic na naman siya, 'di ba? More stages sa yung iconic, so you might let the child watch a movie of a dinosaur para mas ma-imagine niya kung paano how a dinosaur moves. So kapag symbolic na siya, you let the child consult references, text, and discuss findings kung paano at saan ang galing yung dinosaurs. So ganyan. So nagiging complicated na siya. So in conclusion, you can say that inquiry-based learning gives you the following advantages. So out from those discussion, we can conclude na ang inquiry-based is a very effective way of learning in a child kasi nagiging child-centered siya, hindi siya nagiging teacher-centered. Kasi kapag child-centered, the students tend to ask a lot of things and then tend to seek solutions to those questions. So these are the following advantages of inquiry-based learning. So of course, it elevates an interpretative thinking skills through graphic skills. What do you mean by this? Through graphic skills. So meaning, you are now capable of drawing your learning from different graphic systems. Kasi kapag marunong ka nang gumawa ng mga graphic skills, that is already an application of learning. So alam mo na siya how to connect them and how to relate them to each other. Pangalawa, it improves the student's learning ability. Of course, it improves your learning ability because kabalo naman ka where to get your answers and where to seek answers from your questions. And then number 3, it widens learners' vocabulary. So since learner-centered na siya, so hindi na ang bata binibigyan ng teacher ng libro para magbasa, but you let yourself look for books to learn and then you read and then you learn a lot of vocabulary. Number 4, facilitates problem-solving act. So kapag inquiry-based, ikaw ang gumagawa ng learning mo, ginaguide ka lang ni teacher, so nagiging independent ka. You know how to solve problems on your own. Number 5, it increases social awareness and cultural knowledge, of course. Number 6, it encourages cooperative learning. So kapag inquiry-based, di ba kanina sa characteristic ng inquiry-based is there is a teamwork. So kapag teamwork, it will encourage you to do cooperative learning. So you're not just good in doing tasks individually, but you are also good doing tasks with your peers or with your classmates or with the group. Number 7, it provides mastery of procedural knowledge. Ano ang procedural knowledge? Procedural knowledge is a knowledge, procedural, no? Parang, it's a process of elevating one knowledge to be useful for other concepts or knowledge. Number 8, it encourages higher order thinking strategies. And number 9, the last one, it hastens conceptual understanding. So when you get hasten to different concepts, hasten means parang na-master mo na siya, ng amount, the concepts are already mastered. So nahasen na murag nahasa na, no? So that's it. So if you have any questions, make sure to comment down on the comment section. And then I will make ways to answer that one, and I'll be somehow doing another video for that question. So that's it for now, and wait for further announcement. Thank you.